Hey girl, hey. So today we're talking about busyness, and I feel like I'm in the thick of it right now.
Yeah.
With busyness.
That's for sure. I mean, when we started making our list of chapters that we were going to do, you would think that me being controlling, this would be the one that I'm just going to give you some knowledge. I'm going to be the wise one. No, this is not under control. My schedule, which is designed to be controlled, is not controlled. Okay, so the struggle is real. I am on the struggle bus with you right now.
Yeah, it has definitely been a struggle for me for many years, like so many years. And like, what was I busy with? That's something that kind of spoke to me too. Is like, or why am I busy? What is it that's causing me to be busy? And it's just, I feel like busyness and priorities kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's like, what are your priorities? What are you staying busy with too? So, one of the many struggles I've had in my life for sure.
We hear sermons all the time. I mean, I feel like our pastor gives us a refresher like every 6 months about our margins. We start the year off talking about margins, and we do good for a little bit, and then boom, I hit the cliff again. And then back when school starts, he's like, I feel God leading me to share this with you again because you're apparently on the struggle bus about margins. And here we are again. It is March, and we're struggling with busyness already,
Yeah. I think.
I'll go ahead.
Well, no one let me talk.
We're busy.
We're busy. Our minds are busy. We have lots to say. It's like, it's overtaking us.
I was just going to say that for me, I feel like you'd mentioned priorities, and I feel like it's very easy for me, for my priorities to get mixed up with laundry, like other stuff that is definitely not as important as my family can get up there on my priorities list where I'm like, I have to get that done. I'm so busy. I have so much to do.
The laundry is eating the house, like that point.
Really?
I hate laundry, okay?
Right now it's eating the couch.
Yes, but there's a lot of things that we do that's self-inflicting. Like I have a 12-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And all of them are included in something. They're all doing something. Calvin's not so much a extracurricular activity, but we spend time with him doing science projects because that's his type of thing that he likes. And so it's kind of like an extracurricular activity. It just happens inside the house. It's something that we make sure we do, just like Cassidy's competitive cheer, Hudson's t-ball, Haven is dance. Like we're always doing something. And honestly, I signed them up for all those things. It's like I did that. It's something that I just put myself in that situation,
Yeah.
Well, and did y'all ever really think about okay, am I really that busy? Isn't everyone else this busy? I should still be able to handle all this.
Yeah.
The sad thing is I didn't even realize I had a problem with busyness until I got older, and I was like, okay, I'm threw kids in the mix. And I was like, I'm so overwhelmed. I was one step behind, balancing all these plates, and they were falling. And just, I would do things well, I thought, in the moment, but it wasn't great, And then I also, I thought I was doing it really good, balancing all the plates. But then when I realized, okay, this one over here is kind of dirty. I haven't really attended to this one, and this one over here could use a little help.
Yeah.
And so it's if my work was really strong, then my relationship with my husband may have been a little more weak, or with kids, or, just, balancing all of those things.
Balancing everything. And once I look through, when we are preaching about margins, they kind of instruct us to go kind of make a list and look over those things that you have going on, pray about them, and see what it is that God is asking you to remove. And as I look at my list, I'm like, these are all good things. And I was once told, and it just sits on my heart. It's been sitting on my heart lately. And I was told, Candace, I worry about you because you do so many good things. And my concern is, are you neglecting your one great thing? And that really got my mind turning. But that wasn't enough. He didn't stop there. He was like, because if you're neglecting your great thing because you're hoarding all these good things, is there somebody else's great thing in your thing of good things? And I have been praying on that and praying on that and praying on that. Like, God, I don't want to neglect my great thing. And I want whomever's great thing I have in my list, I want them to have it. That's not for me. And so please reveal to me what it is that I need to remove. Reveal to me what is not mine. What have you called me to be? You know, what have you called me to do? What is it that is my great thing? And the only way I can know that is discerning my voice with him, you know, his voice.
Good.
Well, it's so hard to hear his voice in the busyness because his voice is like still and small. You know, it's not the overpowering one that's like, ooh, you know, you're not going to hear this mighty voice. And when I'm busy, I can't hear it. Like, it's just not happening. And then I think, you know, we talked about too before that, you know, what are we filling our time with? Like, what is it? Like, when we aren't busy, what are we doing?
Yeah. Are we using that to do what we want to do, or are we using that to do what he wants us to do?
Yeah, and are we seeking the Lord in that time? I feel like one thing that I have to make sure that I'm doing, even in the busyness, is getting grounded in him and in his word, and in having my like make sure that I'm like conversing with him throughout the day. And I think that what I tend to do sometimes is like reach towards worldly things, where I'm like, if I get a moment to myself, I want to put my headphones in, I want to watch Netflix, I want to scroll Facebook. And then, like, when I think about it, by the time I'm done doing that, I still feel so busy and so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But if I'm like actually using that time to like spend with the Lord and let him speak into me, then like he gives us peace through the busyness, and he gives us strength to walk through it.
I caught on, you said you want to converse with him. I feel like sometimes we feel prayer or time with God, that quiet time with God, is a one-way conversation. Like, it's all about us speaking and talking and asking and, you know, pleading, but it's not. It's a conversation, like you said. Like, we need to have margin to be quiet, to hear what it is that he has to say to us. That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there was a time that I actually justified my busyness. I still do that to this day sometimes with certain things like life groups or whatever, certain groups, whatever I'm trying to like fill my time with. But I actually justified busyness with my job because I was providing for my family. You know, and I think with our world today, it's like you have to have two working families. I'm not knocking families that are two working families. Like, sometimes, I mean, if that's what the Lord calls you to do, that's what he calls you to do.
Yeah.
But it's like, why was I working that job that was 60 hours a week? You know, and it's like, because I wanted to have the nice house. I wanted to be able to take my kids to do things. I wanted to be able to eat out whenever I wanted to. And it sounds really selfish and crazy when I say these things out loud, because I'm just like, I didn't think that's who I was. And I didn't think I was falling in the worldly things.
Right.
But then, like, ever since I've had this rest period, I went from 60 hours a week to 6 hours a week. Yeah, quite a difference. And especially for a workaholic like me. Like, I just constantly stay busy. But then I had to just really realize, like, what am I running from? Or why am I staying busy? Is it fear that we won't have enough money to pay our bills? You know, and is it fear that, you know, if I put my kids in all these activities, is it fear that they're not going to be well-rounded or good at that sport or whatever they love, you know, when they get older? You know,
fear
fear
on something.
Yeah.
I would say fear of disappointing God. Like, you say that you leaned on the justification that I'm providing for my family. What about when I am trying to be involved in all these life groups, or I'm serving God? I'm just so busy because I'm serving God. That's not what he calls us to do.
Yeah.
You know, he calls us to rest. He does want us to serve him and be disciples and bring people closer to him, but he doesn't want us to do it at the expense of him. You know, because when you don't have that rest and you're serving so much or you're working so much, the first thing that usually goes for me is my quiet time. I'm going to sleep a little bit longer.
Yeah, I feel like I get busier in that place.
Yeah.
I think about all the things I have on my to-do list, not just like focusing on the moment, what needs to be done to that day. Is I just get so overwhelmed by all the things I have to check them off my list, because I'm a list person. I like to mark them off. Actually see it. I use paper. I don't use my phone.
Your iPhone.
My poor iPhone 6 is just,
She's nice.
it's on its last leg.
It is on its last leg, so
I'm just praying over it and just loving it a little bit longer.
We joke it, we call it an iPhone. It's not an iPhone, it's an iPhone. Yeah, one thing about making the decisions and things, I think about Ephesians chapter 5, 11, and I skip around a few in verse 17 as well. It reads, "Be careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most out of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is."
We can't hear His will if we're too busy.
No.
And I feel like the world has, like, it's successful in the world's eyes to be too busy, or to be like very, very busy. It's like, it's so worldly. Like, we look at that as like, that's successful. That's, it's like a badge of honor.
Isn't it the American dream?
I'm busy.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like,
But there's not, like, there's no sanity in it, and there's no peace, and there's no, like, God wants rest for us.
And it is so much more it gives you so much more gratification than a crazy, chaotic schedule.
Right.
Breaking that verse down even more in the Message version, it says, "Don't waste your time on useless work. Mere busy work, the barren pursuits of darkness. Expose these shams for what they are." And then I skipped down to verse 17, if that wasn't enough, stepping on my toes. And verse 17 says, "Don't live carelessly, unthinkingly. Make sure you understand what the master wants. Recognize God's will." And I feel like that's where my priorities come in place. Like, what is His will for me? Where does He want me to be doing, volunteering, serving, working? Like, in my downtime, what should I be doing? Like, what is His will? And it's okay to ask Him for every step,
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't until this past year that when I had my business and I had employees and everything, I was working 60 hours a week, like I said earlier. I thought, I know the Lord blessed me with that. But then I realized that in the process, like, I was working 60 hours a week, so I didn't have anything left to give. Like, I was not seeking Him. I was not loving on my family the way they should be loved on. And it really hit me after a year in it. And I was like, okay, Lord, I know that you can bless people with jobs. I know you can. But I know you're not blessing me with a 60-hour work week where I can't spend weekends with my family, and nights I feel frazzled and I'm staying up till like 4 a.m. You know, like, I knew that wasn't Him. And so I recognized it, and I was like, okay, I've got to pray about this. I was like, Lord, whatever, like, I need margins. I wanted margins in my schedule. And I was like, Lord, just whatever I need to do, just let it happen. Close doors that need to be closed. Like, just let my employees find jobs before I even say anything to them. Like, just let all these things happen. And then I'll know it's you. We always do that. It's like, if you do this, I know it's you.
Give me a sign, Lord.
I'm like, can I have the flashing lights and all the things? And I'm like, and it's really funny how He answers prayers, and we think, oh, well, that's not quite how I imagined it, but, but it ends up, it's always Him.
Yeah.
And so I just really had to pray about that. It was just like, I know you can bless me, but I know you don't want it to be at the expense of time with you and then my family also. And He closed those doors. And I'm not going to say it was easy. Okay. Even though I knew it was Him, I knew He was the one doing all of it for me. Like, He's answering my prayers. Like, my pride, like, my business is no longer there. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, all of, the fear and anxiety can kick in. But then I had to realize, like, I just got to keep praying and trusting that He answered my prayer. There's no way you can explain that other than that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
You had mentioned earlier, you said something about running from something, or like that's what you would do in the past. And it made me think about, like, I feel like that's what a lot of people do when we get really busy. Sometimes I feel like it's like we're running from something. And I have wrote down a quote from Brene Brown. She said, "Crazy busy is a great armor. It's a great way for numbing. What a lot of us do is that we stay so busy and so out in front of our life that the truth of how we're feeling and what we really need can't catch up with us." And I read that and I thought, how true is that? Like, how many times do we get so busy just to kind of like not deal with what's really going on the inside?
Yeah, and I mean, you say that is because a life group member of a life group that I was leading mentioned to me, like, what are you running from? And I was like, nothing. This is just me. I work a lot, you know, like this is just who I am. And it wasn't until I realized, like, what am I running from? And I think I was successful in my job. I could do it well.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to love my family. Like, if I'm being completely honest, like, I didn't know how to separate and have time for my family. All I knew was to be a workhorse. And it hit me hard that I was like, here I sit with kids all day long and play, but I can't sit with my own kids and do stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it really, like, I mean, it makes me emotional thinking about it. Like, and it's hard for me to even admit that because, like, my pride's hit a little bit. Like, well, how did you not recognize that? But that's one of the things I was running from.
I think about prayer and being bold and asking God to close these doors. And, you know, in the position that I am, the season I am right now of looking for jobs, it just makes me think back to the Armor of God study that we're doing at our church right now, about how we need to discern our, you know what the enemy is telling us and know what God is telling us. And it's like praying and asking God, can you show me the right way and the wrong way? That's not really how specific we need to be. Like, show me the right way and the almost right way. Like, how can I differ between those? Because in this time and trying to determine what you need to keep on your schedule and what you need to, you know, release, sometimes the enemy can show you almost exactly what God is telling you. And I've been presented with those ways of a job that's almost exactly what he has told me that I need to be doing, what he's called me to do. Like, it's been like 89%. Almost there. Like, I'm like, just move it a little bit more. And if I was not in tune with God, I could have taken that chance and my life could have started to spiral because I was just accepting that and adding that to my calendar, adding it to my load, and it's not the right load that I need. And I mean, I'm still waiting for the right way, and it's so hard to be patient and to be trusting of him during this time. But I don't want to be more busy. I don't want to take away from that time with my children because, like we say all the time, our family is our first ministry. I mean, I'm raising preteens, 2 preteens, and 2 little ones who are still enjoying life to the utmost. But I have my son who we're trying to understand some of the learning issues that he is working through. I'm not even going to call them a disability or anything. It's just a little twist that God has added to him reading. You know, we're just trying to polish that twist out and get him fully through. And I can't do that if my schedule is too overwhelmed. You know, I'm called to be his mommy. That is the best blessing that I could be, is the mommy of these 4 babies, you know, and that's what I want to hone into. That is what I want to do. I want to be there for my friends. I want to be a great employee. I want to work. I feel called to work. I feel called to lead, and I need to do it all the way that he's called me to do. You know, I need help juggling. I need help juggling. I'm not juggling that well right now, but I want his guidance.
I think when we talked about how we get so busy that we can't hear him, I was just thinking about how I feel like that's why, like, the Bible talks about how, like, God created the whole world and everything in it in 7 days, and on the 7th day he took a Sabbath, like he rested.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, like, why it's so important for us to do the same. Like, we work all throughout the week, and like we need a rest day.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, not everyone's schedule allows that. But to find a time where you can truly just, like, get alone with God and just rest and not be so busy, I really think that, like, there's a lot to that, like when God mentioned that in the Bible.
So good. But the world calls it lazy.
Yeah.
The world gives that Sabbath such a different image than what it really is. Like it is, it's probably the most work to take a Sabbath. And by the most work, I mean, it's not lazy. You're not being a lazy Christian. You're not being a lazy mom or husband. Because I know my husband probably struggles in that because he's such a workhorse. Like he's always wanting to do. But in resting, you're getting more accomplished than you could ever do while we're just out being busy and on our feet and doing all the things that the world tells us to do. In that rest, we're growing and we're dedicating that time to God, and He is working. He's molding us and transforming us in the way that we need to do. But we can't do it if we're over here and over there and doing this and doing that and on this phone call and on this social media reel. We can't do that. He can only transform us when we are just still.
I mean, how many times, I don't know if y'all are like me, but I had to be forced to rest.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I would get sick, or my kids would get sick, and I would stay home, and I would be so antsy. Like, I was like, I gotta get this stuff done, and feel, like I had to check my list or whatever. But it's almost like I had to be forced to rest. And I feel like that's what this time period is, me working 6 hours a week. He's like, forced me to rest, to realize what was important. Because, Romans 12:2 spoke volume to me too, because it was talking about, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. And I'm just like, since I've had this time off, I'm just like, okay, what have I been doing this whole time? Like, conforming to the world, like, and what the world says I need to do, and those expectations, unrealistic expectations, that I've put on myself and others have, and so I was like, I can't do that anymore. And what was really important to me is that I didn't want my kids to feel like they had to live life this way also.
Yeah.
I never want my kids to feel like that they have to be so busy that they have anxiety that leads to depression because they can't keep up and do the things in the world.
Yeah.
Because I honestly, like, if we're gonna be real here, there was a time in my life I was so busy I had no margin. Like, if anyone stopped me in the store or anything like that, I'm like, I had no time. Like, there was like, I had 5 minutes to get in and out before I could pick my kids up. Like, you can't be stopping me and talking to me. Nice to see you. Bye-bye, Felicia. I'm just like, you can't, I don't have time. But, I just had to realize that, I needed that margin. I needed the margin in my life, and I did not want my kids to feel that they had to live up to the world's expectations. And okay, I know where I was going with this. I kind of got off track for a minute. I was like, I said that. But I was actually had severe anxiety. Like, it was terrible. Like, I had no peace. I had no joy. Like, I was a mom that had no patience, and I yelled a lot, and it was really hard for me. And I was just like trying any kind of anxiety medicine that I could. And I was just like, nothing was working. It'd work for a couple of weeks, and I'd be like, okay, I got it. It's working. It's fine. And then it hit me one day. It's like, it's almost like I heard, you're leaning on the world to fix this. And I was like, what? Like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I have anxiety. Like, I got to get rid of it. And it was like, I had to really look at my schedule and my lifestyle that I had. And anyone would have anxiety in that lifestyle. If we are constantly busy, not taking the rest that we're supposed to, we're not machines. Like, we can't do it. Like, we need rest. We need community, which I didn't have community.
Yeah.
We need church. We need our church community. Like, I was not going to church, so I wasn't putting Him first. Like, my priorities were completely out of order. Who's not going to have anxiety with that?
Yeah. And it makes sense to be attacked by that depressed demon because you feel that you're failing. Because there's, not only do you not have margin for God, you don't have margin for error. And anytime you drop the ball or make the wrong step or anything, that's a complete disappointment in yourself because of those expectations that schedule gives you.
There's just no peace in it, And I just look at people too that I'm around, and I just think, man, if they could just have that realization as well.
Yeah.
You know, like, what am I doing? Like, is this working for me?
What are you chasing after?
What am I chasing after? What am I feeling
running
like
from?
What are you
good.
running from? You know, what are your priorities? You know, like, and most importantly for me, I had to realize, what example am I setting for my kids, that you are overworked, too busy for your family, and you yell. You know, like, that was hard.
It is. Well, guys, don't get too busy. Just send us an email for prayer or anything. We're right there in the same boat with you guys. We are figuring this out. We are leaning on God to just help us clear this schedule and do your work, your will, Father. And we just want to pray with you. So email us at heygirlhey20@gmail.com. Shoot us a message. Stop us at church. Anything. We won't be too busy. Okay. We love you guys so much. See ya.
Bye.